welcome. This is Rita with Sent with Love from Rita, and we're going to be making this card today. We're going to be using Brusho crystals and the stamp set Beautiful Day. And this was from my kit that I just got, and I'm glad you're coming with me on this journey. This is my very first card. I'm excited to share with you how to use the Brusho crystals. So let's get started. And here we are at my stamp table. This is my crafting table that I do my magic at. And I'm going to just go over it quickly. We'll be using some glue dots, the little ones, to adhere our little bow. We'll be using the Brusho crystals, and I'm going to be using these three colors, the yellow, the brilliant red, and the gamboge, to make those colors that are oranges and yellows and a little bit of red orange. We'll be using the Tombow, which is my favorite way to glue other than dimensionals. And then the bow is the silver baker's twine. In order to make this gorgeous love, we use glossy accents at the end. We emboss with crystal embossing powder the butterfly, and so we'll be using the embossing buddy. And this is our little set of the Sunshine Wishes die. I will be using Hope. I already did Love, just to give us some difference in the card. And later in other cards, we'll be using these gorgeous dies as well. But I absolutely love sentiment dies because of what we can do here. And our block, this is block E, in order to do two techniques. One is to stamp the butterfly, and the other is to help with making this watercolor. We will be using a little spray bottle for that. And at the very end, for these gorgeous little dewdrops in the color that matches, I'll be using the Stampin' Up watercolor pencils along with that glossy accents again. All right, let's get started on what our first step is, and that will be to emboss the butterfly. I just love to emboss. It's just the most gorgeous technique, and you can do so many things with it. And adhere that nicely onto our block. And a technique that I kind of like, I know everybody does their own thing. That embossing powder doesn't like to stick to plastic, so we'll take our little piece of paper. It's going to be the size that goes on top of our card. And just to digress, we have a side folding card here. And I just liked the idea of doing the card in a different direction. All the measurements will be at the bottom of my YouTube page. Take our embossing buddy, and we just make sure that no other fingerprints will get on there. And then with Versamark, we need Versamark in order to do this technique with the embossing. Stamp that on there. Doesn't have to be so very perfect. Try to get it centered. We are going to twist that piece, a little kitty wampus. So because this technique is supposed to be very artistic and not so exact, then sprinkling on our crystal clear, we'll go emboss that. So we have our butterfly embossed, and you can see down here with my plastic, I'll just show you how that works. I just fold it up and get with my finger, voila. But I did take a sentiment out of here that we will use on both of those cards later. That is this lovely always thinking of you. So we'll set that aside. We can see our butterfly through our acrylic block. And this is where we can do our magic. And so what we're going to do is spritz the block with some water, maybe 3 times. And bringing in our Brusho crystals. I have poked them, you might be able to see, with a pin 3 times, almost to make like a salt shaker. on these. And I'm going to start with the red. You see how you can just salt it. And then the orangey red. A little bit more of that up here. A little bit more red over here. And now the yellow. Spritz. We can turn it over right onto our butterfly and smush. Picking it up, you can see that there's still some on this block. So where we don't feel we got enough, you could actually spritz a little more. And then smush again. I'll spritz right there. Get some of that moving. And then a little tissue just to take off the excess. Just pat that a little bit. And now I'm going to take my embossing gun and just kind of stop the wet process. But you can see now it's a little different than the one I made, but that's what art is. It has a very cool speckled look this time. So maybe I didn't put as much water, so then the little speckles kind of left a little salty look. Very neat. Now we're going to assemble the card. I have stopped this wetness process most of the way. And what I like to do is bring in some of this craft foam. And the reason being is to keep this all flat instead of putting little dimensionals all around on it and having it being crushed in the mail in a funny way. I use craft foam, and so I just put a little bit of my Tombow on there. All right, and then just smooth this down. And then I bring in my big block and just set that on there. And maybe anything else that's heavy, you know, you could bring in, just give it some weight. And again, I'm gonna put it corner to corner here. Now I'm gonna bring in those Hope. And instead of doing this with my big shot once, I did it 3 times, and we're going to layer these, and that's what's gonna give this really nice look to this love. It's gonna stick up a little bit, be a little bit more professional looking than just one piece. And then glossy accents on there. So just little bits. Some people might have the glue that has the thinner, and it's something that we can always aspire to get. Makes life a little easier if we have the right tools. I always say it's all about the tools for any kind of project. If you have your tools that are quality, you're going to have a quality job. So some things like the big shot, you know, it might take us a little longer to get, and we might really wish we could have it. I know I did for a long time. And then once we have it, it just gives our card such a professional look. Let me just show it to you up close. Make sure you get all your edges, because that's how it's going to look professional. Now, do you see how this is just lacking a little bit, and this is lacking a little bit? So what we'll do now is tie the bow. And I messed around with this a few different ways, tying trying to tie multiple loops on. What I ended up doing is just going around my fingers a few times. Pinch it together in the center, and then take that leftover. We bring in that mini glue dot. Mini glue dots are awesome for things like this. Stick all those layers together, and I'm just going to put that right about there. Squeeze that into that mini glue dot really well. And then for those ends, instead of cutting them off, again, artistically, I think they're kind of cute when they swirl around at the end. You could do another mini glue dot, or you could just do your Tombow. So I'm going to put a little dot there of Tombow and a little dot there. Curl this up and get one of your blocks over there. Same with this guy. And bring in my block. Okay, now we'll bring in our hope sentiment again. And like love, I only glued the top part of the love and I let the rest hang. It's just, again, an artistic way that there's things happening, flowing in and out and up and down. It's just part of my personality. Okay. Glue just the top letters. Oops. And this is just really therapy, isn't it? Card making. You know, one of the therapeutic things I like to do is think about the person that I'm making the card for. And today I'm making this hope card for a friend of mine who actually is struggling with cancer and really suffering. So bring her a little hope. Well, it has to be able to fit in the envelope. So even though this love could hang down more, the hope has that P. So it's gonna hang off a little bit more uniquely. But do you see how pretty this ribbon, it goes underneath like that? Very artistic, I think, when things are flowing around like that. One of the other ideas that I really love besides the Brusho are these watercolor pencils. And what I decided to do to give my glossy accents some color was to use these watercolor pencils, because as soon as the glossy accents hits it, then it turns it to the color that we're using. The red, of course, is going to be our darkest. Now watch the magic begin when we just put a little round mound on each dot. So what's super fun about this technique is you can make your card accent dots look exactly like your card by just using these watercolor pencils. And in this particular card, because we already have a splattered look, it is even more super fun. Very pretty. And on this other card, do you see how I did it with the antennas? So let's do that too. Do not touch your little dots while you're doing your sentiment. And just go over your sentiment and get your little edges nicely. You don't want any edges to show that they're not glued together. Another pretty thing might be a little sequins diamond, you know, right in here on your bow or here or there. I didn't do that today. Any little sparkle on here with this silver would be very pretty. And then I'm just gonna let this one set aside. This one's all nice and dry. And you can see how your little accents are really gorgeous. And so we'll come in here and we'll just do our sentiment. In my kit, remember, the only colored ink pad that I got was black. I wanted to have a nice clean black. I have other colors that I've accumulated of Stampin' Up. This gives us the opportunity to make very gorgeous sentiment statements with a very brand new beautiful black on the front of our card or the inside. On the front of our card today, I just decided to use black paper. That did not come in my kit, but what I was going to say is if you don't have black paper, I only used black and white paper, hoping that you also would have black and white. But if you did not have the black paper, you could just take your ink pad and make your white paper black and then cut that out. So I hope you really like this card. It's just simple and very artistic. You can put lots of your love into it. And we will see you again next time when I will have other really fun ideas on using this stamp pad and also the Brusho, but with a different technique. All right, see you again soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sent with Love from Rita, and don't forget to send some love. Bye-bye.